Develop your basketball specialty. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
I am a legend. I am a legend. I am a legend. Legendary. I am a legend. I am a legend. I am a legend.
So up front, I want to say we're not talking general here, right? We're not talking specific skill in this video. We're being much more general. So we're not talking about like, oh, your specialty is your step back jumper. That's what you are known for. We're not getting that specific at least in this particular video. But what we are talking about is more general, more broad. So the whole idea is I use the term legacy out here much more than I use the word reputation, even though they're pretty much interchangeable. The reason I do that is because when I say reputation, for me, I think of reputation as like here and now in the present while you're actually on the court. What people are thinking about you while you're here right now. But when I say legacy, what I'm referring to is more so like what people think about you when you're not here, after you've left. Are you still in their mind, in their brain? Are they thinking about you? And also like when you show up to the court, people are here, they see you, what is the first thought they have? They may not know your name, they may not know anything about you, but when they see you, the whole idea of your legacy is for them to think, oh, there's that rebounder. I want that person on my team so that I can get more rebounds. Or, oh, there's that shooter. I want that shooter on my team. Or I don't want to have to guard that shooter. That's what I mean by legacy. You show up, they may not know you at all, but the first thought they have is, oh, there's that skill. Or, oh, there's that ability. To me, there's 3 levels when it comes to your actual legacy, showing up to the court, having people see you and recognize your skill or ability. The top place is you show up and they say, oh, there's that defender, right? I want the defender on my team so that I can play better defense, or I don't want to have to play against that defender. They see you, they recognize your skill or ability right away, and or they continue to think about it when you're not actually in their presence. The second level to your legacy is when they see you, their thought is, oh, I know that player, I've seen that player before. They're a pretty good player, average player. I wouldn't mind having that player on my team. The third and worst level to me is when they see you, you leave no impression on them, right? So that you play with them, and when you leave, they completely forget about you. Or you show up and they have no thoughts whatsoever about you showing up to the court. Having no impression upon them, to me, is much more worse than you leaving a bad impression with them. Because even if you leave a bad impression, then at least you can change their mind. You can come up and make progress in their mind from having that bad impression. So if when they see you, they think, oh, there's that player again, I don't want them on my team, why are they even out here? If that's the impression you leave on them, then at least over time you can improve on that. And even if you bring your reputation up to like, oh, okay, that player used to be a bad player, but now they're a pretty good player that I wouldn't mind having on my team, in their minds, that's a pretty big progression, right? In contrast, if you don't leave any impression on them at all, they don't think about you ever at all, they forget about you as soon as you leave, to me that's even worse. So that's why when you develop your specialty as a player, your overall general specialty, it's so important because it's kind of your calling card. It's what you're going to be known for, at least presently, when you show up to the court. So let's talk about how you develop this specialty and how it can be part of your game. But first we have to identify what it's going to be for you. There's 2 ways to identify what your specialty should be. Ideally you would take both and use them together, but you don't have to. One or the other is fine. So the first one is, it can be something that you're just naturally good at out here at the court. Something that you naturally have a tendency to do well, a talent, if you want to think of it in that term. Say for instance, you just happen to discover that you're a pretty good defender. When you play defense, it just seems to come to you a little bit more naturally than it does to other players out here. You're just naturally good at it. And or it could be something that, even though you're not necessarily good at it, you love doing it anyway. So let's say, for example, you love rebounding. You love the contact, you love the fight, you love jumping against people, you love all that stuff, but you're kind of small, right? You're a smaller player. You're smaller than most of the other rebounders out here. So you're just not that good at it against, you know, average people who happen to be bigger than you, but you love to do it anyway. And the way you develop that specialty is the same way you pretty much develop any other skill or ability out here at the park. The exception being that because this is supposed to be your calling card, because it's what you're going to be known for when you show up to the court, or when you're not here, people are going to think about you for this trait of your game. Because it's that important, because it gets VIP status, it deserves VIP treatment as well. What I mean by that is your specialty should be something that you are obsessed about developing. It should be something that you want to be obsessed about, something that you can't get enough of trying to develop and becoming the best, not just that you can become in terms of your speciality, but better than anybody out here, right? This is the one time where usually I say, you know, just focus on you and your game and trying to become the best player that you can be. Don't worry about anybody else. But when we're talking about your specialty, something that you are going to be competing against, something where it's directly comparable to other players, well, I think in that case, this is a subject where you can start to think of yourself competitively and comparatively to other people. This is something where you can sort of become a little bit arrogant and try to think to yourself, okay, I don't want to just be the best rebounder I can be. I want to be the best rebounder out here at the park, at any park. And I think that's fine to think that way, and it can be extremely fun to challenge yourself to try to do that. But the reality is that you're never going to attain that status, deserve it, earn it, you know, to be the best whatever, wherever, unless you allow yourself to become obsessive about earning that position. So let's talk about being that obsessive and using it to your advantage right now. So when you're developing this specialty, you develop it just as the same way you would any other aspect of your game, any other ability or skill. But it is the intangible parts of that aspect of the game that is going to set you apart from everybody else out here. For example, if your specialty is rebounding, now you need to know all of the physical aspects that go into rebounding. You need to have all the footwork, right? You need to know how to box out. You need to be able to jump high enough to rebound with anybody else out here. You have to have all of the physical skills that allow you to become a great rebounder. But anybody can do those things. They're supposed to. All of your contemporaries, all of your competition, they're all supposed to do that exact same thing. They're all supposed to know the footwork. They're all supposed to know the positioning. They're all supposed to jump high. They're all supposed to be strong down in the post. All of that stuff, that applies to everybody, including you. Because of that, that doesn't exclude you, that doesn't separate you, that doesn't make you special, that doesn't make you stand out in anybody else's mind when you're doing the same thing that everybody else has done, because it's expected of everybody. But what will separate you is all the intangible stuff you do. You get the intangible stuff by knowledge, by thought, by understanding the how and why you're doing these things. That's where the obsessiveness comes into play, because you have to be obsessive about studying and mastering even the smallest little minute details that go into rebounding the basketball. Do things, study things, understand things that everybody else out here isn't doing. Everything and anything you could ever think of that could be related to rebounding, you should study and master and have an understanding of things that other rebounders out here wouldn't even be thinking about doing. That's how you separate yourself from the rest of the pack, because that intangibles that you bring to the court is going to show over time. People will recognize your ability to do things in ways that other players can't do, because you have knowledge that they do not. What eventually is going to happen is you will be able to identify other players that supposedly have that kind of same specialty as you have, and you'll be able to pick their game apart. You'll be able to say, okay, this guy rebounds just like I do, but here's the weaknesses that rebounder has. Here's what I can use against them. You'll be able to identify that more and more, and it will become easier to do so, quicker to do so, because you will have the knowledge that they do not. And you'll be able to use that knowledge against them to not only beat them, but in the process, separate yourself as a better, higher standard player than they are. Lastly, when we're talking about how to implement your specialty into your actual game and use it out here at the park, you do it any other way that you would any other skill or ability that you're trying to actually use on the court. So you learn and try to master all the physical aspects of that part of your game, and then you try to gain all of the knowledge possible about that part of the game, knowledge that other players out here don't have, and then you come on the court and try to apply what you've learned, and some of it's going to go great and you're going to be happy with it, and some of it's not going to go as you expect. And so when that's happening in the moment, when you're trying to implement your specialty and it's not quite working out, well, obviously you try to adjust on the fly and make the best out of it in the moment. But in the aftermath, after the game, that's when you really start to regroup, right? That's when you really start to recalibrate. So afterwards, you figure out what went wrong, right? Get more knowledge, find more things that other people out here don't know about or don't care about, and then repeat the process. The only thing different about this process and this part of your game compared to the rest of your game is that because this is your calling card, what you want people to know you for, it's gonna get a little bit more obsessive attention than the rest of your game at this point in your career. I say at this point in your career because as time goes on, as this does become your specialty, what you're known for, as you master that part of your game, what should happen is either that specialty will then change to something else, or at the very least, it will expand from what it is and you'll build on it from there. If that doesn't happen, if your specialty doesn't change or you don't expand on it once you've mastered it to the best of your ability, well then you're just not growing as a basketball player. So whatever you decide to be your specialty to begin with, what's going to happen is you'll just go through your entire game. Eventually everything about your game will become your specialty. But for now, my advice is to take one part, one at a time, focus on that, make that your specialty, go through the process that works best for you so that you can figure out how to take this part of your game, make this your specialty, excel in that, right? Now you've done that, you've completed that, you know now the process and how to go through it and what's the most effective way to do it. Now you apply that same process that you have compacted down to the most efficient process possible, and you apply that to other parts of your game. One part at a time, slowly building up your game until everything that you do is your specialty, and that becomes what you're known for out here at the court. So thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, if you think it's going to help you develop a specialty and take your game to the higher levels that I've talked about, well then that's great. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. That's the best thing you can do to support the channel, is to subscribe. So everybody that does, I appreciate it. Everybody who has, you're great. Stay around, watch all the videos. I appreciate all of you. Also, make sure you like, comment, share, get the word out about this channel. If you find this channel to be something that you're like, oh man, this is what I've been looking for, this content doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet, including YouTube, well then great. If you love this channel, if you like it, if it's helping you, share it with everybody you can. So thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys next week.
Love it when they chant, I feel like a man. I gave you a chance, want some more, let's dance. Calling me the champ.